Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Franchise Dealer Group Q&A. On my right, your left, we've got John Tordoff, give us a wave, Nigel McMinn from Lookers, Ken Savage from Perry's, and John O'Hanlon from Ridgeway. So we're going to kick off with a question which we keep asking everyone, but we want to get your opinion. How large do you think that the new car market can grow?
Do we pass directly to Nigel on this one?
See Trade Plates TV.
I always thought that I'm the eternal optimist about this, because for some time I've been saying that a lot of the dynamics are in place to allow the market to grow past 3 million. And everybody thought I was crazy. But Tony Whitehorn's just told me he thinks 4 million. I think there are more people starting to accept that it's going to get closer to 3, and certainly within the next 5 years there's a good chance that it might get past 3. And my basis for that is purely and simply that if you look at it across 60 years, it tracks population and GDP growth, and we've currently got pent-up demand from 08 to 13 still feeding back into the system, so it'll grow faster than the 2% GDP growth.
What about you, John?
I'm not so sure, but I am a pessimist. I can't see where 3 million cars are going to go, if I'm being honest. You have to question the whole infrastructure of the UK and the actual size of the country to try and work out, well, where would 3 million cars sit? If there's nothing coming out the bottom end, which there isn't, if there was a scrappage situation again where cars are being taken off the road, then you might be able to see that. But with more going in the top end and nothing coming out of the bottom, I kind of struggle to see where 3 million cars might go. Unless, of course, we all just buy bigger compounds for storing them.
Ken, hand over to you.
Okay. I think it's probably more a question for an economist, isn't it, than a motor trader. Where's the market going? I think it could be more than it is at the moment, but probably not that much more, because you look at the cars, they're better, they're lasting longer. The alternative argument is that more people are driving. One of the manufacturers made the point earlier today that there's no longer 1 or 2 cars in a household, it's 3 and 4 cars in a household. In the short term, I think we might inch closer to 3 million, but I don't think it'll go massively above that unless we have a big change in the demographics of the UK.
John?
I think you can never say never. The truth is people love cars. Truth is people we're controlling more of the sale on finance. So I can see how it could happen. I don't think it'll happen this year or next year unless something else is happening in the market. And I think that's what John was referring to in terms of the pre-registrations. But absolutely, if we get a following wind, the economy goes well, you never know.
So I'm interested in, it's very difficult to find good quality people at the moment. What do you think the car industry needs to do to attract new talent to work in your businesses? And are you doing anything special to attract those people?
I think attracting new talent to the industry is one of the key issues the industry faces right now. Are we doing enough? At a local level, yes. At a national level, as a dealer body and as an industry, no, we're not. I saw Steve Nash presented some really frightening statistics at a recent NFDA meeting that I was at, where it was a tiny, I can't remember the exact numbers, but in terms of the graduate population that were leaving university and joining the motor trade, it was a fraction of what it should be. Why aren't these people interested in the motor trade? I still think, by and large, it's not a sexy image. It doesn't have a sexy image that they want to be associated with. I think, by and large, most people associate it with buying and selling cars, fixing them, etc., etc. But there's so many different facets to all our businesses, involving marketing, IT, HR, you name it, that selling cars is the end game, but behind the scenes, there's some fantastic sidelines that we should be attracting really great candidates from. And I'm quite passionate about this, that I still don't know of any other industry where someone can leave school at 16, 17 years old. I know you can't leave school at 16 anymore, but you used to be able to leave school at 16 years old with little or no qualifications, but a really great work ethic and the ability to get on with people. And by the time you're late 30s, early 40s, you can be running a big business, earning a six-figure salary, driving a great car. Doctors go to university for year after year after year and earn half that. So why are more and more people not wanting to do that? I genuinely don't know the answer. I know it's something that we're doing a lot about. We've been involved in a project with the IMI because it's big on their agenda. But as an industry, we really have to grab hold of this. Otherwise, a whole generation of people are going to pass us by again.
Nigel, how do you attract people to your business?
I don't think I've ever heard John Tordoff speak so much in one go, actually.
I told you I was passionate about this.
So I'm not sure there's much left to say on it, but I agree with a lot of what John said, but I do think that as an industry we are getting a lot better as every year goes by. I think it was unheard of for us to be having sales apprenticeships even several years ago. I don't think any of us were focused on succession planning or management development. We left a lot of that just to the manufacturer brands. And I think we're getting better, certainly as dealer groups, I think we're getting better at leveraging the power of the brands to attract people in. And I think it is an attractive industry. I think interestingly, I've just been talking to some 15-year-old school kids upstairs before I came here. And there is a genuine passion and interest to work in the industry. Cars are a sexy product. It's just that we've done our best to make it unattractive with very long hours, 6 days a week, very male-dominated, highly charged through commission. And I think, most companies are doing quite a lot to address all of that now and make it more attractive. So I would say, I don't know the exact figure, but it's something like 70% of our intake into sales now are new to the industry. And about half of those are women. That's a lot different to what it was 5 years ago. So if you get it right at the ground level, I think we'll see the leaders of the future being more balanced, more rounded individuals.
Ken, is that something you're finding as well?
Yeah, I think one of the major issues facing us, at least we started to recognise that it's an issue in terms of we will have to change if we want to attract the staff of the future. I think working environments, working hours are a huge issue. I'm not sure what the answer is in terms of, because we still need 7 days, we need to open our businesses 7 days a week, which gives us real challenges. But I think we've got to start thinking about what hours we're going to be asking our salespeople to work, the environment we're asking our technicians to work, and we've got to just do some PR and get out there and say exactly the point that John makes, that there's potentially, you can earn a lot of money. But these days, people want more than just money. They want working conditions, the sensible working hours. They want other fringe benefits. Just a big pay packet is not enough for many people.
John?
Yeah, and I think there's two sides to it. The first side is recruitment, and we've been trying to work outside the box quite hard. So we've been having talent wanted evenings and going about the actual recruitment slightly differently. If we keep fishing in the same pond, we'll keep getting exactly the same. So we've been using lots of social media advertising, attracting people we wouldn't normally reach, because you're absolutely right. It is why it's male-dominated, and we need to get away from that. It doesn't reflect the customers that we sell to. The other side of the equation that I'm passionate about is the retention, and part of that is through development, so choosing the Ridgeway Academy, and actually making sure that everyone's got the tools. That keeps them interested, that keeps them wanting to work within the Ridgeway brand, and then using some of the Academy assets in other parts of the business. So rather than just normal run-of-the-mill training, if we've got a particular issue, and one of the issues I was worried about was actually we just assume that our managers can actually undertake a recruitment process. So within the space of 3 weeks, we had every manager taken through a straightforward, simple, but effective, here's how we should and could recruit, here's who we should include within the recruitment process. So yeah, part of it is reaching out to more different people. The other part is making sure that we keep the guys that we've spent a lot of time bringing into the business.
Not wanting to take this down a particularly negative lane. But what do you think is the biggest struggle that you guys are facing at the moment? We'll start with John again.
Biggest struggle? It's twofold, really. It's the margin pressure that I think everybody is feeling in order to do the targets. You know, to get there, margin comes under pressure. But I think the possibly an even bigger issue at the moment is the ever-increasing cost base of the business, which just goes up and up and up every year. It's, you know, we're recruiting more people, bigger dealerships, fancier dealerships, more training. It just seems to be more of everything, and I think that is a real challenge for us all, particularly if the market cools, because I think somebody told me. It's probably quite a common statistic, but somebody said to me only a few weeks ago, you're only 7 years away from your next recession. And we haven't had one for quite some time. Yeah. But as sure as eggs are eggs, we will have one. And when we do have one, every dealer in this room, their cost base will be a damn sight higher than it was the last time we had one. And that's a scary thought, a really scary thought. Certainly something that keeps me awake at night, and I'm sure it does these guys as well. But the cost base of the business is just getting higher and higher and higher, which is okay while we're selling plenty of cars, and maybe we will get to a 3 million market over the next few years, or maybe we won't. And it's okay if margins are sustainable, but as soon as we start coming down the other side, I think there's going to be some. It could get pretty ugly out there.
Is it worth it, though, if you're pumping this money into bigger dealerships with fancier stuff in it? Do you find a return on that?
Well, the bit at the end that we all get paid off just seems to get smaller and smaller. The actual number might be getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but the percentages that we're all measured on are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So a return on sales is getting harder and harder. You know, I mean, there was a time then, you know, if you weren't achieving 2% return on sales, people would say, what are you playing at? Now, if you're returning 2%, you're a bit of a hero. So the bit at the bottom is getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And I say, we're all, you know, everybody's turnover will be up, I'm sure, but margins are squeezed and costs are just going bigger and bigger and bigger.
So, Nigel, what's your big struggle?
I mean, he's a right doom-monger, isn't he? Yeah. So he finds it really easy to answer those questions. But I totally agree with John. I think that there is margin pressure coming into the new car market, and it's certainly the first time this year that we've started to see it as obviously as it is. And of course, the problem with that is that you still need the resource to fuel the volume, but the margin's not coming through with the volume. So the cost ratios in our business are a real struggle to keep under control, and we've got a lot of focus on that at the moment. And one of the other big areas that I'd just add to John's, and of course it's part of the cost driver, is the challenge around technology. Because I don't think we've ever considered ourselves in this industry as technology businesses. But the reality is now that technology and what we talked about before, people, are our only two differentiators. And the investment required and the sophistication, the competency in technology is just much greater today than it was 5 years ago. And I think it'll be even greater again in 5 years' time. It takes a lot of investment, a lot of expertise in-house, as well as the support from suppliers.
Ken, what do you think?
I think that certainly the biggest challenge facing our group, and I think it would apply to most businesses outside the motor trade, is just coming back to the people issue. We struggle to have enough people to run our business effectively. We struggle to have enough technicians in the workshops to deal with all the demand to service and repair the cars. We struggle to get enough salespeople in the showrooms to deal with the customers. But on top of the number of people, the real challenge is the quality of the people. And we all know that if you've got a difficult business, if you find the right general manager and put him in, that business will be sorted overnight. But there are few, the really good guys are few and far between. And that's the real challenge on how to attract those people. And the only thing we can do, because as I said before, it's not just about the money, it's about the culture of the business that you have. You've got to create the right culture with the right package to attract the great people.
John?
It's quite interesting because I think Ridgeway is in a sweet spot where we've got some of the scale, but we've actually still got a lot of the controls that allows you to maintain a level of margin. So last year, for example, was the first year we hit 2% in a long, long time. And actually, a lot of what worries me now, and maybe it's if you look above us, it's some of the changes, some of the structural changes that might hit the industry, because we are heavily invested. And all you take is a small bump in terms of retail confidence, and actually the guarantees around where customers shop for new cars. You know, I think we've dealt quite well with the used car challenges, but where people shop for new cars, that's up for grabs. And actually, that's what worries me, and that's the part I keep trying to understand, you know, the impact of a car wow, the impact of a what car going forward, and how it'll affect what we do as franchise dealers.
So one of the big talking points in the industry this year has been the emissions scandal. I know a number of you represent some of those brands, so I'd be very interested to hear on your take on how it's affected your business and whether you think we're out of the woods. John?
Well, in terms of VW product, I mean, we are almost 50% of our group is some kind of VW product. So Q4 last year was a particularly tough time, as it was for any Volkswagen retailer. I think, I mean, it's quite interesting that over the last few weeks there's been stories about Mitsubishi and one or two others who've kind of gone hands up, and how quickly that's kind of it's just disappeared off the front page. It's kind of like yesterday's news. I think I get the feeling the general public is kind of thinking, well, they're all doing it, but VW have been the one who's kind of caught the cold, really. It's quite interesting in the VW group of companies how VW kind of took one for the team, and all the other brands, Audi, Seat, Skoda, they all took half a step backwards and carried on. And you know, ultimately, you know, of course, VW will recover. It's a massively big, strong, powerful brand, and ultimately they will get back to being where they once were. But yeah, Q4 last year was particularly tough if you were a VW, particularly VW retailer. Q1 this year hasn't been great, but you can only see the trajectory going back up there, improving now. And I genuinely think I mean, it's quite interesting now that VW and the other brands have kind of got all their emission fixes in place. The uptake of customers coming in for the cars being fixed. It's like, well, if you'd have had the fix last November, I would have been down the following day saying, I want my car fixing. 6 months on, you know what? I'm not right bothered. It's yesterday's news. We've moved on. You've moved on. It's not a problem anymore. That's how it certainly feels to us anyway, and these guys are nodding their heads, so I'm guessing it's the same in your world as well, John.
John, has it been the same for you?
Yeah, I think very similar. There was a lot of fear from ourselves when the news hit, and there was a lot of uncertainty. What I think we did do really well was react, and we were prepared for the customers as they arrived in every dealership. The point John made round about the Audis not being as affected, absolutely. We had a week's worth of pain, and then it just sailed on. So from that side, at the beginning, it could have been a lot worse. And we're working ever so hard to try and get the customers in for the fixes. You know, commitments were made to Parliament around about how many cars would be fixed. I hate to say it, it does feel like yesterday's news. You know, it's the chip paper. People aren't really talking about it. And when the stories have flared up, we've had a tiny little bit of activity and then back down. So, touch wood. But, you know, the power of those brands, they make great, safe cars. that are a lot of value.
So, Nigel, do you think that the scandal has done lasting damage to the industry, or do you think it's going to be long forgotten?
No, I think it's been a storm in a teacup, to be honest. I mean, it's going to be expensive for Volkswagen Group, but as John said, they'll ride it out. They're far too financially powerful. We have a saying in the business that the customers are more interested in what comes out of their bank account than what comes out their tailpipe. And I don't think they were ever that bothered about it in the first place. The media made a big storm about it, but I think they were looking at an easy victim in Volkswagen Group. And this year, I mean, our quarter one has been extremely good with Volkswagen and all the other brands. So, you know, in some ways, I think it's been it's galvanised Volkswagen Group. It's given them a renewed energy, you know, commercial aggression that wasn't quite there last year, even before the emission crisis. So, you know, I see a lot of positives coming out of it.
And Ken, what was your take on the whole scandal?
Well, I was watching it very much as an observer on the basis that we don't have Volkswagen, we've got Seat, and we didn't notice any change in the business on Seat. I don't think the Seat customers really recognised it as part of the problem. So, from my point of view, not an issue.
So the other big topic at the moment is the Europe vote. What is your take? Are you feeling any pain at the moment because of the vote coming up? We'll start with John.
I think there's been a general cooling off of the market, particularly in the new car market, in April and May. Whether that's a result of the referendum, I think it's hard to tell really, or whether it's the fact that, you know, maybe we pulled a lot of business forward into Q1 or whatever, I don't know. You know, the news is generally a bit gloomier over the last few weeks. There's, you know, I think whenever you introduce uncertainty into the economy, the first thing people do is stop spending money. And I think there's been a lot of that, arguments to and fro and everything. I mean, you know, in our office, we can't agree amongst ourselves what the right course of action is. Everyone has their own opinion, and I think that'll be, you know, right up until polling day. I think it could go either way, really. Personally, I think we'll end up staying in, but that's just my personal opinion. But as I say, I think once you introduce uncertainty, people just have natural caution as to, you know, just back off a little bit, and that's through all our sales channels: retail, fleet, contract hire. Everyone's kind of been saying the same thing. But interestingly, used cars just seems to motor on, which is a strange phenomenon. I can't explain it.
We haven't noticed any discernible drop-off in order take on new or used as a result of it, but we are expecting it as we get closer to the referendum. We saw it a bit with the Scottish referendum, just closer to the actual date itself. But you know, I think in truth, the markets through the foreign exchange, through the sterling-euro exchange rate, seem to be saying, as pounds strengthened again, that they believe that we're going to stay in, and that really that's the biggest threat or opportunity for us. If the pound stays strong, when we import 80% of the cars in euros, the pound needs to stay strong for the manufacturers to have the money to tactically subsidise the PCP offers. If the pound weakened, certainly if it ever got down to kind of 110, that would be a problem. You know, I think we would see much less aggressive offers, much less appetite to pump cars into the UK. But the markets would seem, as the pound strengthened, they seem to be saying that they think we're staying in, which we think would be the right thing.
What's your take, Ken?
Our experience is very much like John. We've seen, after a record quarter one, we've seen very much a slowdown in April. Last week of April slowed down. May's a bit slower. The used cars are carrying on fairly strong. You know, we saw with the Scottish election that did disrupt our sales pattern, and I think Brexit will disrupt our sales pattern. I'm really hoping that we do stay in. It looks like we probably will, because we need to maintain just put it behind us and get on with life and have some certainty, because that really is a killer for sales. John?
Just looking at the stats, for May, our inquiries are up 9%, but our conversions dropped off a little, so we've not sold any more cars year on year, and that's the first month this year where we haven't been pushing forward quite hard. So I think it is having an impact, in some of the confidence, therefore some of the buying decision. So I won't say it again. You know, sooner we're in a month's time when we're still in the Euro and we can get on with selling cars, that'd be great.
So where do you guys see the biggest opportunities are for car dealers at this time? John?
The biggest opportunities? Wow. I think there's still massive opportunities around after sales. I think it's often an overlooked area of the business, but I think there's huge wins and gains to be found in after sales. And if you get after sales right, pretty much the rest of the business kind of takes care of itself. I think there's huge opportunities with talking to all the guys who are in this building today, who are all pushing different products in different areas where we've never been before. And I think you have to be really, if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always got. And I think you have to be looking for the next, you always have to be looking for the next new thing to just keep yourself, if not ahead of the competition, certainly on par with the competition. I don't think there is one big opportunity, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's lots of little opportunities. Marginal gains are to be found everywhere. And it's just, it can be, you know, I was talking to someone this morning who, you know, they've just, a guy who's a company that's exhibiting today, and they've tried their product and they've seen a return on it straight away. And it's just looking for the little wins like that all the time and trying it and seeing if it works, and if it works, go with it, and if it doesn't, pull back again from it. But it's just, you know, as I think it was Nigel was saying, technology is moving so fast. You know, it's a full-time job just to try to keep up with it, to be honest. And you've just, that is probably where the big wins will come, through technology-driven products and such like. As consumer behaviour changes, and you know, we keep all hearing about Generation X and Generation Y and how they're all going to buy cars, and do we really need a 50-car showroom anymore, and things like this. So I would, if you embrace technology, I don't think you go far wrong.
Nigel?
Mine's much simpler. It's used cars. We constantly benchmark ourselves against the groups like Arnold Clark. And whilst we have a slightly different position and a different approach to the market, we look at what they do in terms of used to new ratio, and we look at the dispersal between the best and the worst in our own group, and we just realise that we've got loads more headroom to do better in used cars. And the big opportunity for us we see is the repatriation of the right cars back into the dealership that wants to retail them on the back of PCP through renewal. More of those cars are coming back to the dealer that wants to retail them, and sourcing them has been the biggest issue over the last few years. So with better sourcing and much more focus on used cars, we think it's telephone numbers, the opportunity that exists in used cars.
Ken?
I think the thing for our business is efficiency. To run the business more efficiently in terms of at the start, looking at your marketing spend and make sure it's spent in the right place, the conversion of marketing to inquiries into sales, and operating hugely efficiently. And then the point that we were discussing earlier is looking at your cost base. So if you've got an efficient sales process, it will give you the volumes and the margins, and then just watch that you're not spending too much money to get there.
I guess what does excite me is we're still scratching the surface round about some of the social media, some round about some of those technologies going forward. I just look at the kids, and you see how the kids actually are attached to the tablet. It's too much, and how they're using and some of what they're using. And then you just see how some of the technology and, you know, the talk of virtual reality, Christmas 16 will be the time that will become into common stream. And I sort of look around our businesses and see how will we employ that, how will we engage with that. So that's the part that I'm constantly striving to understand, constantly striving to keep up to date with, so that we can make sure that we're not even looking at our customers today, but the customers tomorrow.
Thank you, all of you, for coming and giving us some of your time today. It's been really, really interesting. If we could have a round of applause for our franchise panel. Up next in 15 minutes, we're going to have Lucy McHenry from Twitter. So hang around if you want to hear what she's got to say.